Prior to the 1980s, communities made games, not massive companies. Because of this, gameplay was more focused on storyline. Motion and physics were simulated using words, similar to a storybook that you could interact with. In fact, at this time, most games are based off of text. Very rarely did the game implement graphics and sounds because they were hard to use on a basic computer. Because of this, authors never made money off of their games. However, in 1972, Pong, the first commercially successful game, was released in arcades. Pong was a tennis simulator for two players to play, both with their own joystick that could move up and down. At this time, joysticks couldn't move left or right, and would only move when you pushed the console all the way to the edge. 5 years later, the Atari 2600 came out with improved joysticks and the first console to ever hold a cartridge system. The joysticks it had 2 axes and could move in 4 directions, and occasionally had a button on the top which you could press to do certain actions in different games. In 1980, the first game to ever use true 3D gameplay was released. The motion let the players move up and down on a screen and let the players jump using the button on the Atari 2600. This game, Battlefield, became increasingly popular for its realistic movements, extreme graphics, classy 8-bit sounds, and fun gameplay. Prior to 1980, most video games were made in 2D. This 2D motion was recreated by consistently recreating an image, which would update the player's movements. It could also be made by using geometric shapes and updated using formulas and matrices from geometry. After Battlefield came out, simulation became very popular. Recreatable in Blender, simulation allowed players to move in a third dimension, but in 2 dimension allowed for better graphics and smoother gameplay. Despite this smoother system, it wasn't fluid motion due to the fact that you still had to smash the Atari controller in order to truly move in any one direction. In 1989, The Prince of Persia was the first game to introduce fluid character movement. The Prince of Persia was very popular for its storyline. However, this new movement meant that players could only move a little bit, and didn't get angry with the game for messing up its grid system. The game also implemented free movement, which even though it was implemented in games such as Mario, it hadn't really been used past classic shooter games, and therefore the concept was very unheard of until it was implemented into a strategy game, which most players were into back then. In the 1990s, upgraded systems and features may change this.
The ragdoll effect was first introduced in the 1990s and was used to give characters in-game a more natural death. The first game thought to have a ragdoll effect was Jurassic Park: Trespasser. Ragdolls have been used through Featherstone's algorithm and spring damper contexts, though other approaches have been used as well. Usage of inverse chromatics and blended ragdoll effects make deaths look more real and more correctly interactive with the environment and surrounding space.
Motion sensing controllers are the new norm in games, complete with a collection of accelerometers, gyroscopes, and infrared sensors. These technological advances are allowing for more accurate representation of real-life physics. Beginning in the mid-2000s with the introduction of Nintendo's Dream Mode, released in November 2006, it is equipped with an accelerometer smaller than a pen, having the ability to detect motion in all 3 dimensions. forward, backward, left, right, and up and down. It also detects the force of gravity to accurately determine if the controller is oriented vertically or horizontally, as well as the acceleration resulting from shock or vibration. Combined with infrared light transmitted from a sensor bar and internal controller sensor, it can correctly define the location on screen the controller is pointing. In addition to all this, the Wii Remote Motion Plus, an accessory for the Wii Remote, works to further improve accuracy, with the gyroscope to measure rotation directly and accurately. The PlayStation, a cross between technology with the Wii and Kinect. It utilizes a camera color-changing orb combination to determine the distance and position of the controller to manage aiming and cursor movement. An internal accelerometer and rate sensor are used to check overall rotation and motion of the controller. An internal magnetometer and temperature sensor helps calibrate the remote to help correct any error of the motion sensors. The Kinect. With an infrared projector and camera, the Kinect uses time of flight to determine the distance between objects, giving results within 1 centimeter of its true depth. It is also designed to recognize the human body, distinguishing each body part and joint, and track the movements made by this human controller. It is able to recognize changes in gestures and positions.
Pong was a senis. That's a senis? Really? Did I really mess it up that bad? I need the stupid paper in front of my face. Where is it? In 1989, The Prince of Persia was the very first game to implement something or the other. I'm sticking with it.